Hello, hello. Welcome to Midlife Unfiltered. I'm Donna and this is Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
Welcome in, everybody. Today we're sitting down with Jody Hill. She is a best-selling author, speaker, and parenting educator who helps parents raise confident and capable kids by understanding the power of their everyday words. Welcome, Jody, today for coming and joining with us.
Hello, ladies. Glad to be here. I love that there's a podcast for those of us who are in our 40s. So, it's an
Yes.
interesting time. Pre-show, we were just talking about our kids growing up and so fast. And it's like, it's an interesting time of life to be navigating, but also really great. I love my 40s.
Yeah. And
Yes,
you know what? It's
yes.
great that that there are so many people like to support each other, and that you could just talk and relate and
Yeah,
not feel like the only one.
right.
Yes,
100%.
yes. That is why we started the podcast, is because when we looked around, we realized that there was no podcast really that for people to talk about being in their midlife and everything, because everything, as you know, was so hush hush, especially when we were younger. Well, then now the younger generation has all of these questions because nothing was ever answered. So we're here to like let it all out and go for it.
Love it.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that is why we started Midlife Unfiltered. So, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and people that might be watching so they know who you are and your book?
Yeah. My name is Jody Hill. I am a mom of four children and a bonus daughter. So I was married for almost 16 years, divorced, and then found an incredible man who I didn't know if I'd ever get remarried, but I did. And he's amazing. And he has a daughter. So I've got a bonus daughter as well. And what are some other fun facts about me? I used to be a professional photographer.
Oh,
Right.
And after the divorce, I was like, that's not my passion or my heart anymore. And I was like, what makes my heart come alive? And I really realized it was what I had learned along the way, whether that be as a child from what my parents demonstrated or my own life experiences, and then also raising my own children. I just realized that that was a really big passion of mine to share what I've learned. And little did I know it would turn into a book. And now I have a best-selling book on Amazon. And I'm like, is this my life? And so, yeah, my heart and my passion is to really help parents equip their kids to be the strongest, to be the loudest and most positive voice in their kids' life. Because what we speak to and over them shapes their belief and identity and how they show up in the world. And I'm like, man, if we can realize the power we already have, we don't have to get a doctorate to like attain this. We have this already, but it's just if I can really help parents hone that in, then they will see a huge transformation in their children's lives. And so that is what I do. And I'm not with my four kids.
wow.
Yeah. Doing the mom thing, right?
Doing the mom thing.
Yes.
So like how many parents have you worked with, or do you have success stories? Do you have stories that maybe things
Yeah.
haven't worked out, or
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of fails on my part.
I think
And
we
so
all
let's
do.
start there. And then I can share some really like powerful stories where other parents have reached out and they're like, this has made such a huge difference in my kids. So, my book is called The Parent Secret Superpower. And our superpower is the words that we often don't realize we even have. That's why I say it's a secret. And then it's the 7 simple strategies to raise confident and capable kids with the power of our words. And so in the book, I share 7 simple strategies. Like it really is like a no brainer. But if we don't think about it and apply it and realize that, hey, maybe even some of the things that we are saying is actually tearing my kids down and I didn't even realize it, there's so much power to that. So, one thing that I love, I share this one story in the book. I'm like, this is what not to do, right? And so, one of the secret superpower strategies is affirm the children, like affirm your kids, affirm their super behaviors, and just to be really careful about the negative words that we speak because we want to encourage them and breathe life into them and not shame them, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
perfect example of what not to do. I was with one of my children. They were young. Oh my gosh. But some of them had started grade school already. I have four kids. They're currently ages 7 through almost 13. And so I was with one of them, and you know how it is. It's after school. Everyone's hungry. Everyone needs a snack. There's laundry always to do. There's dinner to get started. There's homework to look over, all the things, right? So just to give a little bit of grace to myself, my level of tolerance and patience was not at the highest. And so I'm sitting down with said child, and my goal in that moment is to get through and check their homework so I can get on to everything else, right? And I cannot do that because their handwriting was so difficult to read. Like so difficult. And this has kind of been a thing with this kid, right? They will not do their best effort. And so they just do it fast to get through it. But now this is impacting me and my time with them and my time with the things that I need to get to, right? In hindsight, I can like analyze all this and like, oh, I see what's going on for me. But in the moment, there was none of that, right? So I'm trying to get through this homework. And then all of a sudden I blurt out, oh my gosh, your handwriting is so horrible. It just was dead quiet. And it was that moment where I was thinking to myself, I really wish I had a rewind button and I could take this back. And then it got even worse when my child looked at me and said, Mom, like that was really hurtful. It's like,
Oh,
because there's some like part of me that wants to think maybe they didn't hear what I said, maybe they didn't take it negatively, and we'll just pretend it didn't happen. But they hear everything and they feel
yeah.
everything. And in that moment, I apologized and I was like, I am so sorry. I am frustrated. And yet, like, that does not mean that I can be hurtful with my words.
Right.
And we repaired it and we talked through it. And going back, like, this is what I wish I would have said in that moment.
Mhm.
And this is why, as adults, it's so healthy for us to be healthy and regulated and emotionally mature and not reacting in all these situations, but responding, right? So, what I wish I would have said was, I love the time that I get to spend with you going over your homework. I love that it's just you and me, and I love doing this with you. It's a joy to me. However, it makes it really frustrating when I can't read what you have written. I know that when you try your hardest, you do a really great job, and I can read
Mhm.
your handwriting. So, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to let you try again. Go ahead and rewrite this. I'm going to go be with your siblings, and then let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Complete difference,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Complete difference, and that is the beauty of what I'm trying to, like, encourage parents. How we are with our words, it's not to not have them take ownership, not have them take responsibility, but it's that they take responsibility without fear and ownership without fear and shame and condemnation. So if we can show up those ways that keep them accountable, but we're also encouraging instead of, "You suck, your handwriting is horrible, you do this all the time." Like, oh my gosh, what does that do to the sides of a child. So that is a what not to do and how our words
Yeah.
can really give power to that children and can shut them down or open them up.
That's so interesting that you were talking about the handwriting thing because my youngest son, his handwriting, Lord help me, he goes super fast. I
Yes.
have no idea what it says half the time. So I said to him one day, I was like, listen, I was like, I don't know what this says. And I say, if I can't read this, how can your teacher read this? How can your teacher give you a good grade? He's like, oh no, she can read it. And I said, I love you. I said, but if I was your teacher, I would give you an F because I don't know I literally did not know what it said. I was like, so I don't know if your answers are right or correct. And I said, how can you defend your answers? And he
Yeah.
goes, and I was like, so I want you to go back, write slower, more appropriately, that I can read this. Of course, he was mad. And he's like, well,
Good job, mom.
this is gonna take me forever. I'm like, I don't really care. I was like, had you written it proper the first time, you could have been
Right?
done,
Right?
then you could be off doing whatever you want to do. I said, but because you chose to, like you're a 3 year old, that's literally what I said to him because he's stubborn. I said, you need to go back and try again. So it took him, he had to go back, rewrite it again. Donna knows what I'm talking about. He had to go back and rewrite it again. And we went through this for probably a few months. And
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
he was mad every time. I was like, you can be mad all you want. The choice was yours.
Yeah.
You know. So now he's gotten better. Still sloppy, but it's better and I can read it. And I'm like, no, I'm like,
Yep.
Progress.
if I can't read it, your teacher can't read it. And, I don't want you coming home and telling me your answer is correct, but your teacher gave you an F because I would have to side with your teacher because I don't know what it says.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
way to handle that more
yeah.
maturely than I did in the moment.
Well, there have been times that I've just been like,
Yep. Well, you
Yep.
know what? I'll share a funny story.
Do it.
Catholic school for 9 years. My handwriting is perfection, okay? My kids, horrific. My older one literally took him to handwriting school. Gosh.
That's a thing. I think I still
Yeah,
might need that
yeah.
for my kid, not for me.
Still horrific, okay? PS, he's a teacher now, and he comes home and he goes, "How these kids write. Look how these kids
No.
write." I said,
Look how the tables have turned.
"Yeah." He goes, "I can't even read this." I'm like, "Well, didn't read yours for a really long time."
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
That is
amazing.
I think I
I
remember
mean,
I
it
was on
really
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it really does make a difference, like, how we interact with our
Mhm.
kids
Mhm.
and the power that we have, and they truly can flourish or shut down, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, as many of us parents have I mean, I don't know, I can speak generally that our parents only knew what they knew. And oftentimes we know, and even us currently today, we know that we can get a faster response by just yelling at our children, right? Like, oh my gosh, do this, do that. And yet, if you think of us as an adult, when we're yelled at, which I don't know if that happens as much because we don't have parents over us, but does that motivate you to do
No.
better? Does that
No.
motivate you to
I
try
would
harder?
I I would shut down. I was always
Right.
yelled at as a kid, so
Mm,
I my defense mechanism is to shut down, and you're not getting anything from me. Even to this day, if you
Yep.
yell at me and make me so mad, I will shut down and I will
yeah.
not talk to you. Like, we're done.
Yeah.
Not just like I will give you the silent treatment until I am darn ready to,
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
no, that's why I'm always very careful with my kids and how I talk to them because I don't want them growing up going, "Oh, all I ever did was yelled at. All I ever was told I was this,
Yeah.
this, 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 this."
Right.
There are ways that you can, talk to your children when they've
Yes.
done something wrong or you need to, get the point across, but you don't have to, tell them that they're stupid and they're useless and you don't
Yes.
wish that they were born. And I mean,
Vodka.
I've heard so many stories from my kids' friends who have said that their parents, I mean, like not they're not friends anymore, obviously, but when they were like in
Right.
elementary school, kids would say, "Oh, my mom said this or my dad said this." I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Like, let me at 'em. And
I'm
I
like,
think that's a really important distinction that you mentioned where you're so stupid, you're so dumb. Like, those
uh,
are identity statements,
no,
right?
it's true. I was told that as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
I was told that I would be nothing. Like for example, when you're a little kid, you always have these huge dreams. Like so, when I was little, obviously, I said, "Oh, I want to become a pediatrician." Well, obviously now I don't see myself being that, but I was told, "Oh, you're stupid. You're dumb. You're never going to get anywhere in life." Uh, this is why we're not going to pay for you at college. Like my mom apparently had told my husband one year, "Well, this is why we never paid for her to go to college because she was stupid." Right. And I looked at him, I was like, "Well, you do realize that they never paid for my brother or my sister either, so is she saying that they're stupid too?"
That is so hurtful.
Yeah.
I don't talk to her anymore because I was just done with I had to do the peace of mind. I had to, like, send her packing. But,
Yeah.
it's just like, you can't do that to kids. Like, you
No.
can't, like, grown even my oldest daughter, she had classmates that told her that she was dumb, she would never be this, she'd never be that. They don't whatever. Girl's going on to become a dentist. She's, like, in her undergrad right now in for biology, and she wants to become a dentist. So, I just tell 'em, like, "Just ignore those people." I'm like,
Yeah.
they have issues."
That is so sad. And
Yeah.
I mean, one, I'm sorry that happened to you. Like,
Thank you.
no one deserves
No.
that at all. And
Yeah.
that is so, so hurtful and damaging.
It is.
And that's why, as we are raising our children, like, be so careful about what you are speaking to. So, for
Mhm.
example, my kids' rooms get messy pretty fast. I feel like it's a really
Normal.
bad magic trick that keeps happening,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so the propensity could be to go in the room and be like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so messy." But that's speaking to their identity, right?
Yeah.
And what the brain will do is when a brain hears something and starts to believe it, then they start to look for everything that proves that to be right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, as a mom, yes, the room is incredibly messy at times, a lot of times. But instead of coming in and being like, you guys are such a mess, it's, wow, this room is messy. I've seen you organize before when you put your stuffies away and you do such a great job. Let's try and let's clean the room up together or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
still, again,
Yep.
we're not taking responsibility or ownership off them, but we're not speaking negatively and
Yeah.
lies over their identity of
Love
who
that.
they
Right.
are.
No,
Right.
it's true. Go ahead,
Question
Donna.
for you. So, just because my son's a teacher, so I kind of have that in the back of my head. So, like, your book sounds like it could really veer toward, teachers reading that also and how they approach students in the classroom and how they speak to them.
100%.
And, you're talking to 20 plus kids and your emotions are high or getting mad or you start yelling.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had any teachers reach out to you or, any teacher success stories regarding your book? I
Right.
don't know. This is just a
Yeah.
question out of the
Yeah. Well, what I'll say is it's called the Parent Secret Superpower, but it's to parents because they influence children in their lives, their
Right.
own
Mm.
children.
Right.
So it really is for any adult
Yeah.
who is influencing kids, whether that be teachers, whether that be coaches, like whether that be tutors, because
Yeah.
we all have the power to shift the people that are the young little people that are in our
Yeah.
lives. And I have this friend, her name is Jazz, and she wrote this beautiful book called Because of You, This Is Me. And
Mhm.
she went through severe childhood trauma. And the only thing that brought her out of that and literally saved her life was 5 teachers that who stood for her, advocated for her, got her out of a physically abusive situation, like all of these things. And so teachers spend the most time
They
with
do.
kids outside of the parents. And so
Yeah.
100% you can apply these strategies
Yeah.
inside your classroom and you'll see the shift in the kids. And this is the thing, part of the thing that I talk about is you will become the loudest, most positive voice in your child's life in a culture that's competing for their identity. When
Mhm.
you start changing your words. But why is that? Why do kids go towards gangs? Why do kids go towards peers and peer pressure? They go where they feel like where they belong and they're accepted.
That's it. Mhm.
Yeah.
And if we show up with our words and we are constantly belittling them, shaming them, why didn't you get an A? Why did you get a C? As opposed to, help me understand why you got the C. Is there anything you could have done better? I'm here to support you. Like, big difference, right? So if we can change the way we shift, we are going to be that safe person for our kids. And that is what we want. Kids who know they can come to us, feel
Mhm.
safe. We'll
Mhm.
call them up. They'll be responsible. They'll own their stuff, but then they don't turn to outside voices for their identity and their belonging because we are that people, as we are that person in their life as we implement these simple strategies.
Yeah.
I use this saying a lot, "It's okay, we'll figure it out." I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I don't want them to think like whatever is going wrong or whatever path hasn't gone the way they want it to, that it's the be all and end all. So I always say, "It's okay, we'll figure it out." Is that like the right you think that's like I don't know, wanna say right or wrong, but do you think that's is there better words to use, or do you think that's
Well, I think it goes towards our end goal. Like, what is our end goal in that situation? To remain connected with them, to help
Mhm.
them learn from their mistakes. Like,
Right.
if that's the goal, like what I hear in that, it's okay. You're not saying, hey, you driving drunk and getting in a car wreck is okay. It's my relationship with you is okay. You are okay. I love you and I am with you and we will work this out together.
Yes,
So
okay. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
No,
that's what I hear in that.
I so interesting that you were saying this. The other day we did a podcast and I had mentioned how with my kids, when they come in the door from school, I know if they've had a good day or a bad day by looking at their face. And if it's I'm like, okay, well, what happened? Talk to me. Let's talk this out. Let's figure this out. And sometimes it would take them a little bit, to digest it. And then they would finally tell me. I'm like, okay, so how are we going to make this happen? And I'll be like, okay, I want you to go to the school tomorrow and talk to your principal or whom or the teacher and let them know what happened. And I said, then if it doesn't get taken care of, you let me know, and then I will step in and we'll figure this out and we'll make this work because I want them at this age to be able to handle the situation themselves, but
Yeah,
also at the same time know that mom has got their back. But they also know at the
100%.
same time that if they did something stupid, like my younger one, because that's what he does a lot of, I will not take his side depending on what the situation is. And so he knows that I'm like, he got in trouble last year. Principal called me on the phone and I, in the most calmest way, yelled at him in front of his principal. And the principal goes, are you listening to your mom? Are you listening to her?
Yes, I
And he's
love that.
and
Backing
he
you
was
up.
like and I was just like, "I'm tired." I was like, "I am tired of this." I'm like, "You have got to stop." I'm like, "I'm not raising you to be this way." And the principal's like, "Thanks, mom." I'm like, "You're welcome."
That's awesome.
But yeah,
I
no,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
That's so important. And, that's one of my other strategies where it's empower them for their own missions. And
mhm,
that's what you're doing in that moment.
yeah,
You're not coming in and swooping in and going to the principal's office
yeah,
first and doing everything for them.
yeah,
You are saying, hey, this is what you need to do. I'm
yeah,
supporting you. And you can even take it a step further too and be like, okay, that I understand the situation. What do you think could be the next step that you take?
right.
And then have them like troubleshoot. And so I think what you're doing in those situations is so powerful, like letting them own their crap and
Yep,
you're there and you're supporting them.
yeah. It is yeah, yeah. And then you mentioned, you're talking about grades. So my youngest daughter who just graduated, she plays tennis and she's my A student. Well, she came home with not an A one day. And my husband was like, "What happened?" And she's like, "I don't know." He's like, "No, I think you do know what happened. What happened?" He's like, "Was it tennis? Was it this? Was it that?" And so she thought about it and she's like, "It was this." And he's like, "Okay, so do we need to pull back from tennis?" And he goes, "Remember, tennis is just a sport, but this is your future. Your education is your future." And so she's like, "Okay, maybe I need to take not quit the team, but maybe so she missed a couple of practices. She emailed her coach. She let him know, "I can't do a couple practices because I really need to focus on my grade." And he was like,
Wow.
"Okay, I respect that." He goes, "Get it taken care of and then, come back." But no, she owned it. She knew, and another thing we don't do is we don't compare our kids to other kids. We don't.
Yeah.
And like
Yep.
my oldest daughter is, she's very intelligent, but the younger one is, she remembers things very quickly. So like
Yeah, it's
she's
just
my all
different.
A student, the other one is a B student. So like we don't compare.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people out there that do compare their child to another child or to this or to that. I'm like, you can't do that. That's not how that works. Every child is different. And I
Yeah.
remember one time explaining to my husband that it's like you have children who learn by actually physically looking at something and hands on, and then you have children that can just listen and get
So
it like
different.
that.
Yes.
And I told him, I was like, so some of our kids are that way. And I'm a visual learner. I have to see it. I have to physically touch it or,
Yeah.
that's how I have to learn where he can just listen and go, oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. I need to
So
write notes
yeah, like
physically. Like
yeah,
that's what
yeah,
I need
where
to
I have to
do.
literally be I was learning how to do my girls are mixed, right? So I needed to learn how to do their hair when they were little in braids. And I watched so many videos and then I made her sit down at 3 years old and, figured out how to do it. I'm like, "Oh, I got it now."
Nice. Nice.
Yes. So that yeah, it's all about being, understanding each child is different, being a visual learner to a
Right.
child who's not, and not
Yeah.
comparing to others. Because I do see a lot of times parents compare their kids to other kids, and that's to me, I think it's hurtful to the child because it hurts
Right.
them because they think that they're I don't know if the word broken is the right word, but a child might think that they're broken because they're being compared to another child.
Inadequate, not
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah. Like, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that is one thing that I will not do is compare, children to other children because I don't think it's right.
It's not helpful.
No.
What do you think are some of the best strategies for parents to use on a daily basis? You know, is it positive affirmation all the time?
Right.
Is it, let's do it when are we constantly saying, "Yay, you went to the bathroom," like, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when do you think are the most important times that we should
Yeah.
really use these really positive affirmative words?
Right. I mean, we have so many micro moments and conversations with our kids throughout the day. And so it's really moment by moment. There is some intentionality that I encourage parents to do. And something that I talk about in my book is like, let's come up with statements, positive statements of this is who I am. I
Yeah.
am kind. I am a hard worker. I don't give up. Like things like that. And there is literally like science backs it up, but there's literally power when we speak those words out, right? So that's
Yeah.
something fun that you can do with your family, with your kids, of just speaking those every night. But other than that, it really is moment by moment. And I think it starts with parents knowing, and I mentioned this kind of earlier, but like their end goal. Do I want a child who is confident and can do things and can try again when they get knocked down and know that mistakes are okay because it's opportunities to learn? Or
Yeah.
do I want a child who feels shut down because I'm telling them that they suck, they're not good, they're messy, they're clumsy? And so it really starts there. And then as a parent, we have those moments many times throughout the day where we just want to be like, and
Yeah.
I think the best thing that we can do is pause and just remember, like, okay, what is my end goal in this moment? So, for example, my child, he was, I don't know, 2.5. And we had that big Costco size of blueberries. And he was sitting on the counter or something. I don't remember. Maybe he reached up and knocked the whole thing on the floor. So, in that moment, it's like, pause. What do I want to get out of this? What is my end goal with my child? I
Mhm.
want them to feel loved, connected, and also realize, like, whoops, and we need to take care of this, right?
Yeah.
So instead of showing up in that moment being like, oh my gosh, which, sometimes you can't help that, right? But like, oh, I'm so frustrated. look at the mess you made. You're so clumsy. Why were you not paying attention? It's like, he's 2.5, or he's
Mhm.
Right.
3, or he's
Put in
4, right?
perspective,
Like,
yeah.
he's not an adult like us, right? And so instead of showing up that way, it's like, okay, we just made a mess, didn't we? Oh, I see how you knocked that down. Whoops. What do you think? And maybe, and so I would just say in that moment, simply like, all right, we got to clean this up. Let's do it. Here's the dustpan, or let's use our fingers, or like whatever the mess may
Yeah,
be. And then afterwards, it's like, what happened? Like, tell me what happened. How did those end up on the floor? Oh, man. Yeah, mom was clumsy too. I have been there. I've knocked over some stuff. What do you think you can do next time so they don't end up all over the floor? Oh, yeah, I can help you. That's a great idea, you know? And so it's just having that dialogue. So it really is moment by moment of what is my end goal? Am I helping them to be confident, capable, secure in my love and my acceptance, even when they
mhm,
make mistakes? And I think that is really the most powerful thing that a parent can do throughout the day.
Yeah. I think
yeah,
that even would work even if you have teenagers. So, for example, one of my kids, I think they dropped a cup or a glass or something and it broke. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's just a glass.
Just to
It's
go,
just a glass. It's not like
yeah,
I can't go get another one. It's not the end of the world. Just, get your shoes on and sweep it up. That's what I always tell them, like, just get your shoes, or I'll be like, just get out of the way, meet in the nice way, like, let mom clean it up. So
yeah,
I would rather get cut, than have them
yeah,
get cut or something like that. I'm like, it's just a cup or it's just a plate. I'm like, I don't really care, or just like funny because you mentioned blueberries the other day. We were coming in from Costco and the blueberries fell on the ground outside. I'm like, "It's okay, just pick them up and wash them." I'm like, "No big deal." They're
right.
like, "Okay."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Just
yeah,
bring them in the house, we'll just wash them. It's not the end of the world." It's
right.
not like it
And
was
those,
angst.
yeah, so messy. And it's those small moments of showing up with your kids that builds trust with them,
Yeah,
where they are like, it's okay to mess up and mom's not going to lose her crap on me, or dad's not going to lose their crap on
yeah,
me. And then when those bigger mistakes happen, right? Then you have proven that you're a safe place.
yeah,
And so that is why kids will keep coming back to you or not come back to you if you
yeah.
haven't shown in the smaller ways that you're not as safe.
Yeah, I've just always learned over time. It's just it is what it is. Just don't, we learn from it. We try to do better next time. I don't ever want my kids to think that every time they make a mistake, they're going to get yelled at, screamed at.
yeah,
Well, especially if it's something so minimal or
Does not
stupid.
matter in the
If
long
it's
run.
something
Yes.
obviously very serious, then obviously I'm going to yell at them because it needs to be, put out there like, hey, don't be, why did you go rob the corner store if they didn't? But I'm just, saying as example, that where might be where I might lose my mind and, see a different side of me. But, something minimal is just like,
Good times.
it is what it is. You know what? Your life, I always
Yeah.
say your life is more important than whatever you broke or whatever,
And our connection too.
yeah,
Like, my connection with you is more important than the shattered bowl on the floor. There's no reason to like lose my crap on you about this.
yeah,
It's just
it's,
a bowl.
yeah,
But I will say, for the parents who feel like it is the end of the world and they're being triggered and they're losing their crap,
yeah,
like that's just a calling to you that this is bringing up something inside of you
yep,
yeah,
that needs some healing and that needs some work. And it may be something that comes from their childhood where they felt like if they broke something that their parents weren't going to be there for them, and it triggers that fear. And so they lash out to their child, which is what
mhm,
they don't want to do, but they're trying to help their child not feel the same way that they felt. And,
yeah,
like it can get so messy, but like pay attention to yourself, parents. Like the best thing we can do for our children is to be aware of our own stuff and our own crap so we
yeah.
can show up in the healthiest ways for our kids. It reminds me of this story that we were at a pool and a couple years back, and we invited a school friend to come, and we were all eating watermelon, and this kid was going to town on his watermelon, like all over his face, dripping down his chest. And to me, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't care. We're even at the pool. Like, you just
go jump in.
jump
In the
in,
pool,
right?
it goes away, all right.
Yes. And I even had baby wipes because you can't pry those from my like dead fingers because I love baby wipes so much. I will still have them even though my kids are way out of diapers. But anyway, like, not a big deal. However, the way that his mom showed up in that moment was so embarrassing. And my heart broke
Oh,
for this children. She literally started lashing into him. She was like, "Oh my gosh, look at the mess you're making. It's dripping all down your thing. Blah, blah." She would not stop. And then she was like, "You're such a heathen." This kid is eating watermelon.
Right,
And so I don't know her story. This was the first
yeah,
time I met her. But what I can make up about that situation that would elicit a response like that, it was bringing up embarrassment for her maybe she's thinking reflection on her as a mom, on her as a
Mhm,
parent, that
mhm.
like all of these insecurities and wounds that she has. And the best way
Yeah.
that she shows up in that moment is just to lash out at the poor kid. And I was just like, so parents, like, do your healing, do your work, go to counseling, go to therapy. It's been the best thing for my life ever.
Yeah,
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 no,
you have to heal
it's
yourself before you can heal anybody else.
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
true. That's one thing that I've taken into consideration with having kids is I don't want my kids to have the same life that I had growing up. So I'm always conscious in the back of my mind on how I react to certain things and how I handle certain things because I don't want them. I mean, my kids know my story, but they're like, I don't want them having the same thing. Like the relationship that I have with my kids is what I wanted as a child and I never got. But I found
Yeah.
that relationship that I wanted with my mom through other women in my life who I looked to as a mom. That's where
Yeah.
I got it, and it's sad that I had to go
Yeah.
find that
Yeah.
in another way, but it was a choice, that she made because she put herself first and she put what she wanted first, and we were put
Yeah.
basically on the back burner, and I've always made sure my kids never get that. So, for
Yeah.
example, my husband's like, "Do you guys need anything?" I'm like, "Guys, what do you need?" I'm like, "I'm taking them shopping. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And he's like, "Did you not get yourself anything?" I'm like, "No, just for the kids." And he's like, "No, you can go shopping. Go do this and go do." I'm like, no, 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 it's always for the kids, because I always want them to make sure that I'm putting them first before myself. That's just how I'll probably will always be that way to the day that I die, that I
Yeah.
always will put my kids first and my grandchildren first before I put myself first because that's just how I want to make sure that they know that they're loved. And not just by me buying them things, but just in
Right.
general that they know that,
You're there for them.
that I was
Yeah.
there for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I would love to encourage you is like, can you also take care of yourself first
Yeah.
at times
Yeah.
and have them still know that they are loved?
But yeah, they always say like, "Mom, you should go get a pedicure. Mom, you should go do this. Mom," I'm like, "Oh, I don't like
Do it.
it." Like, I
'Cause
don't
you're
like
also modeling them,
yeah,
right? So, like, I grew up in a really great church, and yet it was
yeah,
praised that we always served and served and served,
yeah,
and it was to our detriment and actually to like, if we weren't, like, self-regulating, it was actually like we were over serving, if that's a thing, but it was always
mhm,
praised and applauded, right? So as moms, it's so easy, and I can relate to this, it's so easy to put my kids first, but it's at the sake of myself. So it's like,
right,
it's a balance. I don't wanna model for them, "Hey, you just make yourself smaller, your needs aren't important, everyone is ahead of you," right? But
yeah,
that all goes back to awareness and therapy and
yeah, yeah,
healing,
yeah,
right? So we aren't acting out of our childhood wounds.
yeah,
What I love that you are doing is that you are putting a stop
mhm,
to what was modeled for you, and you are
yeah,
not repeating that pattern for your kids, and
yeah.
so that's very
I even do that, like, I'm in at my church, I am responsible for the 0 to 4-year-olds, and so I try even with them because I know this is like their little ears are like sponges, and so I always make sure that it's like if one of them doesn't wanna help clean up or somebody doesn't wanna share, I sit on the floor and we have a little conversation, we're like, "But they're your friend, we have to be nice to our friend. Would you like that if your friend did that to you?" I'll do what they're little, so, you have to, like, think 2 and 3-year-olds, so, like, then
it
they think
starts
about it
when they're little, though.
then they think
Yes.
about it for a second. They're like, "No, I'm like, so do you think we can share the bubble wand for with, little so and so because there's 5 of you and there's 3?" And, sometimes you have to be like they say no, you're like, "Okay, well, I'm taking it anyways because we
Yeah.
have to share." And then they
You
go,
can give it or I'm gonna give it,
yeah,
one way or the other.
and then I'm like, "Oh, you're" I'm like, "Okay." And then, then they cry and then I look at them like, "Okay, I know that's a fake cry, so we can" I'm like, "I guess I have to talk to your mom." "No, no."
I'm okay.
But we're good. We're good. Yeah. So I even with little kids, I always, talk to them at a level that they're gonna understand and I don't go, "You're being," because they're little kids, we gotta
Yes.
train them up and get them to trust. And that was another thing. I'm very I think because of my childhood, I'm very protective of little kids, like very protective of them. I'm like, even though I'm like, "You're a great mom," I'm gonna be like
Yeah, he's
you
like, "I'm watching
watching
Yeah.
you. I told my friend one time, I'm like, "I'm just letting you know with my past trauma and childhood, like, they know everything." I'm like, "I'm just letting you know now." They're like, "You're good. You're good."
Donna, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say something about the little boy with the watermelon. So,
Mm,
when you don't get that positive affirmation and, the right words aren't coming out, this is when you see children that just do like a repeat over and over and
yeah.
over. Maybe eat the watermelon like that on purpose, because they
Yeah.
because they can, and they're gonna aggravate you because
Right.
you're really not, you're not saying the right words. So, had you had seen this child again after that? Like, was no, were they like a I just see a lot of kids that, need a little more parenting
Yeah.
in the correct way, in the positive
Yeah.
way. Not correct is not the right word.
I
In
know
a
what you
more
mean. A
positive
healthier
way,
way. Yeah.
healthier way, yes.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, is there any way that us as parents can talk to other parents, or do you think that it's not really healthy to do that?
I don't know, man. I remember a
I know
quote
it's a
from Dave
weird question.
Ramsey. No, but I get it. You see something happening and you want to step in and you want to help, right?
Yeah,
Dave Ramsey has this quote: "A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still." And
true.
so it has to come giving feedback and help to a parent in order for it to be received, they have to want it.
Yes.
And even before that, they have to even see it. And
Yes,
so it's hard if you don't have that relational equity with the parent
right.
to really speak into that. So if I had a friend come to me and say, Jody, this is a situation that is really frustrating. Like my kid is whatever, then like that opens the door for me to have a conversation with them about it. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting that they keep doing that. That's such a bummer. I can see how that's so frustrating. Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, how do you respond in those moments? And they're like, well, I yell at them because I'm frustrated and I've maybe even called them a heathen before. And then that gives me the chance to be like, all right, well, let's think about that for a second. Like, what is your end goal? Like, what do you think this is helping accomplish that? How can you do that differently? And then sharing that. And otherwise, I just think if they don't open that door or know that it could even be something like, hey, I saw that the situation was really frustrating for you. I have some thoughts about that I've tried with my own kids and it worked really well. If you ever want to like go out for coffee, I would love to do that
Yeah, I think
and
that
just
would
like
be a
leave it
good
out there.
Yeah.
segue. Yeah, but
I had a
you're right when you say, they have to want it too.
Yeah. I had a friend come to me maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit more. She just was at her wit's end because her youngest just every time they would say no, this or that, she just wasn't listening. And she literally was almost in tears. And she's like, I don't know what to do anymore. She said, if I did it with the older two and I said, do this, they did it instantly, but with this one here. And so we were just talking. I was like, okay. And I'm like, maybe start taking things away from the child. And she's like, well, we already did this. And she's just like, okay, well, I'll just wait till next week then. I know it'll come back next week. I'm like, well, then next week doesn't happen. And I said, I go, and she's like, she talked about her room being a mess. And I'm like, well, I go, what I did with my kids, I'm like, I would watch. And if they didn't play with certain toys, or if they didn't listen after I asked them multiple times, I'm like, guess what happened to those toys? They were gone to at the children's hospital or to the Goodwill, or I put them in the basement, put them in timeout for a little bit, then bring them back up. And I just said, you just have to keep trying. I said, you're going to find something that's going to make her cave when she realizes mom and dad are being serious. And so she's like, okay. Cause she said that this daughter, she's very intelligently smart, but she also is she'll just flat out tell. So she's always afraid that she's going to go to school and say, my mommy yelled at me. And then she's always afraid, is CPS going to come knock on my front door because I yelled at my
Man,
daughter? And she said it was, she just said she's always afraid to tell her no and don't do this, even though she does it. But, because the daughter is very smart, and the daughter would never do anything to hurt her mom and dad. But, little kids, they might say something. And so she came to me literally just in tears, like, what do I do? And I was like, you're going to have to find something where that she knows that you guys mean business. And that's going to be her breaking point where she realizes that she needs to stop doing what she's doing. And so I don't know. I haven't asked her since then if they figured out something, but I told her, I was like, don't give her movie nights during the week, let her sit down and read a book while maybe the older siblings are watching a movie. She has to go read a book and she's going to see that, oh, what I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that. I have to change my ways. And I was like, maybe, don't give her ice cream on Thursday night let her sit and watch. And you explain to her nicely, like, you're not getting ice cream because you didn't listen to what I asked you to do. And this is and I was like, you got to find something. And I go, you'll find it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to try. I mean, it
one of the
was,
best, those situations can be so hard. And
yes.
the best parenting book that changed how I parent is called Loving Your Kids on Purpose
Okay.
by Danny Silk.
Okay.
I would recommend that for her hands
Okay.
down.
All right.
And the premise of the book is it talks, I don't know if she's a person of faith, but even if she's
She is.
not, like
Yeah,
it's
she is.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, how does God the Father parent us? Does he be like, I'm going to strike you with lightning bolts if you don't? Well, I mean, maybe in the Old Testament, but that was
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah,
If you
right.
don't obey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and blah, 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 blah. And that's often how we see God.
Yeah.
But what he actually does is he says, I love you so much
Mhm.
that I have created these rules for you.
Yeah.
Don't kill, don't murder, don't commit adultery because there's consequences that follow that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to brush your teeth or you're going to get cavities. You need to be kind or
Yeah.
you're going to go to jail someday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
though,
It's true.
and so it's like, how can we show up with our kids where it's like, this is what's best and this is what's healthiest, and you get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to choose if you brush your teeth. But here's the deal. If you're not doing a good job flossing or brushing, we actually had a friend do this with their kid. He was doing a crap job, not brushing, and they go to the dentist and he had a cavity or something like that. And he was like, hey, son, this is a direct reflection of how you've been taking care of your teeth. Here's the deal. Moving forward, you will pay for every single cavity that you have in your mouth. And it
Oh,
was, I don't know how much. And the kid was like, and ever since then, he had the best dental hygiene, right?
Yeah.
His dad didn't yell at him. He didn't take away like iPad time because he's like, okay, whatever. Like, but, and so that was the beauty of it's like, you get to choose and here's the consequence. You're going to have a cavity and you're going to have to pay for it. And so, and I'll take things away from my children as well. But it's like, I've noticed if like one of my kids has sugar, then they can be a little bit
right.
crabby.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so after dinner, it's like, hey, can I have some? And so I'll tell you, like, here's the deal. I was like, I will let you have this because everybody else is doing it at summertime. But if if you let this impact your behavior, which I know on some level they can't control. So
Yeah.
but stick with me for this example. It's like, then you will not get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh crap. Like this is if I show I can't be responsible with this, then then I don't get to do it next time. So yeah, I love that book, Loving Your Kids on Purpose by Danny Silk. It just really helped me navigate my children and then help them make smart choices now in the safety of my own environment where they can fail and they can get up and try again. And it's in the safety of my own home instead
Mm.
of when they're out in the real world. And now they're losing a job because they can't get themselves out of bed because they always relied on mommy to get them out of bed for their job when they were 16, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
Right. That's
hmm,
yeah, I tell my kids, I'm like, I get up in the morning when they're in school, my guys get up, I wake them up once, knock on the door. And after that, if they get up, they get up. And there was a time that my daughter last year, she slept in and they had 10 minutes to walk out the door. And I knew she was not up. And I walked upstairs and I'm like, you have to leave in 10 minutes. And she's like, what? I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." I'm like, "I wake you up once." I'm like, "You're about to go to college. I'm not gonna be there to wake you up. I
Yeah.
am not." I was like, "I don't have a problem going in and waking you up and telling you to get up," because I didn't have my mom to wake me up when I was little, even when I was in elementary school, like my older brother did. I walked myself a mile to the bus stop every morning by myself as a little kid. But I make sure that my kids are up, but I let them know. I'm like, "Listen, when you get to high school, mom's not gonna be there." I'm college, excuse me. I'm
yeah,
not gonna be there to do this. I'm not gonna call you on the phone and say, "Time to get up."
yeah,
No, no,
Not
yeah,
happening.
get yourself
yeah.
up.
That would be very unhealthy,
I'm
Yeah.
sleeping in at that point. Once the in 4 years, I'm like, I'm not getting up
right?
past 6 after that. I'm done. I did my years, get my diploma.
How hard is it, co-parenting and using the same techniques?
I think what is great about my situation is that me and their dad, do agree on a lot of the different
Mhm.
tactics. And, that's not always going to be the case
Yeah.
for parents, which is hard. And then you also have grandparents that are around your kids. And so, my best encouragement to people in those situations would be just to bring them in on what you're learning, not like, hey, you aren't doing this right with my child and you need to change, or you're telling your spouse like, hey, you did that really badly, right? Again, we want to be encouraging with our words, but it can start with, this is what I'm learning. Like, I listened to this podcast or I'm starting to read this book and I'm really realizing that for me, I'm actually inhibiting my child's confidence. I'm inhibiting their capability. I'm inhibiting their self belief in themselves. And this is what I want to change.
Mhm.
And then, that can start a conversation. And then you can even invite them in, like, hey, do you want to read this book with me, babe? And we can talk about it every night. And that's the cool thing about the book is it's super simple. I'm a mom. I don't have time anymore to sit down and read a whole novel. Like, give
Yeah.
it to me short, sweet, easy application and let's do it. And that's what's so great about it is like it's so digestible. You can read each strategy in just a few minutes, talk about it, and then commit to that with whether that be your mom, which is their grandparents, or your
Mhm.
spouse. It's super easy and digestible and so practical and easy to get others on board with what you're learning.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you've been so successful.
I've been blessed. It's been really cool just to see and hear the impact. And you had asked about that at the beginning. And there's this one woman from England, and she has a daughter. And it got to the point where she was like, I may not send my daughter back to school because her anxiety, her fear, like literally, like
Mhm.
pulling her from the car and she's grabbing on and crying. And it's just like horrible, right? And she's like, I'm not doing this to my daughter anymore. And she read my book or listened to the audiobook, and she started implementing these strategies over the summer. One of them, as I had mentioned, is you empower your kids for their own mission. And so it's simple, even things of like, she would go up to the counter at their cafe and she would have the daughter order the drink. But at first, that was too much for her. So she would have her ask if she could have whipped cream on the top. So little things that she was doing to breathe life and belief and confidence into her daughter. And her daughter was 9, maybe. And so then it was time for school to start up last year. And she was like, I was so afraid. I didn't know what to do. And one thing that she didn't do, she didn't speak fear. She's like, I know this is really scary for you. I know this is really hard.
Mhm.
But she just kept speaking belief into her daughter. And she was like, first day of school, hopped out the car, no problem, and walked right in the door. She was like, the
Wow.
change was so powerful,
That's
so
wonderful.
powerful. And that's what we get to do for our kids. We get to instill that belief. We get to instill that confidence,
Yeah.
and they will carry that with them
Mhm.
for the rest of their life.
Joey, my older one is a camp counselor for 4 and 5 year olds. And so he was telling me yesterday that he has this, one little girl that, doesn't want to leave the mom in the morning. And whenever she's really, really clingy, he's like, Guess you're my helper today. And she always perks up. He's like, Come on, we got to go
Love
sort the
that.
books and get them ready for story time. Or he had them, there were two little boys that were just didn't really want to be there anymore. He goes, Well, we've got to sort the construction paper into colors. Who's helping me? And off
Love
they
that.
went. Like, he used these little strategies,
Mhm.
and the one mom was texting him like, "Is she okay? Is she doing okay?" He's like, "Hasn't
He's
talked about
great.
you the rest of the day.
That's
She's
Love
been my
that.
so good.
helper, and that's it."
That's so good because
He's
he's
a
telling
confidence
them,
builder.
yeah, he's telling them, I believe in you. You're capable. I want you. You help me. And they're like,
Mhm,
and kids rise to that, right? We think that our kids cannot handle stuff. But have you seen these videos on Instagram? You're not going to start seeing them that I'm talking about them.
probably.
It's like kindergarteners. And they're doing all these complicated like movements as a group in a unison and doing all these things. And it's like our kids are so capable and they
Yeah.
will rise to the occasion. They'll feel
Yeah.
so good about themselves when we do that. But as parents, we often rob them of that because we think, oh, you can't do this. You can't help me put the groceries away. You can't help load the laundry. You can't put away your clothes. My kids have been putting away laundry. I mean, my child's 7 now, 6, 5, 4. Like they'll start at like 3 or
Yeah.
4, like little, right?
Yes, ma'am, yep. My kids have been making
You
their
will
own
know.
lunches for years.
My kids were doing laundry when they were 9, like their own laundry.
Yeah,
Like they
Right?
yeah, like I just told her how to put it in, push the button, put this in and go. They did, yeah. Like you can do it.
Yes.
Mom will
yeah,
be there to help you if you need. But no, another thing that I did and with my neighbor kids is they said one year they wanted to do a lemonade stand. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, you got to come up with a menu. They came up with the menu. We went down and bought what they needed to buy. And I just said, you're doing it. I was like, I will sit there as the adult, obviously to protect you. I was like, but I'm not doing anything. If somebody comes up, you need to greet them. You need to give it to them. You need to do
Yeah.
this. You need to do that. And they would look at me and I'm like, this isn't my lemonade stand. I was like, I don't want to do the lemonade stand. I'm not
yeah,
the one that wants
yeah.
Unless you
money.
wanna pay me.
You're right. I'm like, let's go. I just remember just sitting there under the tree and people would come up and they would ask them, like, they'd ask, them, what do you want the money for? What are you trying to do? And this and that. And they did it all. And they were like so excited. The end of the day, I think they had like $100 and they were like, yeah. I'm like,
We're rich.
yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what they thought. I'm like, then they split it up between like 3 of them or 4 of them. I was like, yeah. I was like, see what you did? I was like, I just sat there. I was like, you did this yourself. I mean, they were
I
obviously
love that.
very, if one of them was, she's very shy even to this day. And I'd be like, your turn, go. They're talking to you. And she looked at me. I'm like, you can do it. Go. And she'd be like, Lemon
Love
peel
it.
limed. I'm like, see, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Such great examples. The
Yeah.
kids at camp, lemonade stand. We get
Yeah,
to empower our kids.
we
And
We
do.
tried.
yeah,
We
We
tried.
we do.
especially in this day and age. So, one last thing. How would you, and I know that every situation is different, but how would you tell a parent if they're going through the mom and dad decided, like in your case, you decided you no longer wanted to be together anymore? What would be the best? How would you sit down with the child and tell them? I'm like, unless, of course, it's so obvious, because there's, hitting and screaming and yelling. But if it's just something where, say the best case scenario where mom and dad have just realized it just isn't going to work out anymore, but there was no, they don't hate each other. And obviously you always want to do the best interest of the child. How would
Yeah.
you tell a parent this, the kind of the best way to tell a child like, hey, mommy and daddy, we're going to be living not together anymore. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a sensitive topic.
Yeah. And it's super hard to navigate, right?
Yeah.
When I was going through it, I had a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 7-year-old. So they
Okay.
were young.
Right.
And so I did a lot of
Okay.
YouTubing.
Hmm.
And I think I spoke with my counselor at that time too. And I would just encourage the parent.
Hmm.
Your goal with communicating this to your children
Hmm.
is for them to feel safe and loved and protected.
Okay.
Regardless of how you communicate, you
Right.
need to make sure that they walk away with that.
Okay.
And when you talk negatively about the other person, what is the goal of that? You want them to see how bad their dad is, or how bad their mom is? Like,
Right.
that actually hurts them.
Yes.
So I think it's really hard for a lot of parents, especially when the marriage has been horrible, or the husband
Yeah.
is horrible, or the wife is horrible. Like,
Right.
one, kids know they're not stupid. So there's
Oh,
that.
yeah, they're
But
very
two,
smart.
we want to come in and be like, this is why I'm doing this, blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't matter to the child. They want to know, am I safe? Am I loved? Are you still going to be my mom? Are you still going to be my dad?
Right.
And the thing about like talking bad about the other spouse, like that needs to be a firm, hard rule. Even if you're married, oh my gosh,
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right.
do not talk negatively about your spouse, because this is a fact. Kids know that they're part of mom and they're part of dad,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And when you say, dad, blah, 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 I hate your father, blah, 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 then they're like, wait, if you hate this about dad, what part do you hate in me?
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is so hard for them. They can't understand that. And they love both of you. They don't see, maybe, generally speaking, they don't
Yeah.
see all the harm that the dad is doing, or they don't see all the harm that the mom is doing. They just
Right.
know, this is my dad and I love them, and this is my mom and I love them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what I did is I just kept it like very simple. Like,
Hmm.
being married means that me and daddy, live together. We love each other. We're all together, but we're not going to be married anymore. And so, but I'm still your mom. I'm always your mom. I'm always going to love you. There's never anything you can do that's going to make me not
Hmm.
be your mom. You're stuck with me
Right.
for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah.
Daddy's always going to be your dad.
Hmm.
And then that's the biggest thing they're concerned about, is where do I fit in with all of this? And also, like, what's going to change? What's
Hmm.
going to be different? For me, luckily, not luckily, but we had already been living separately. So at that point, nothing was changing for them,
Okay.
like physically, by, going back and forth. They were already doing that. So,
Right.
Hmm.
but it was, yeah, I'm always going to be your mom, and just reassuring that and not talking negatively. And I was watching a reel the other week, and someone was saying, even going as far as speaking positively about that
Yeah, I think
parent
that's
that they
important.
see. Yes. So one, like, I've always done that, and be like, oh my gosh, your dad is such a good driver, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, something you see in them. So like my daughter, London, she has her dad's brown eyes. I was like, your brown eyes are so beautiful. You have eyes just like your daddy.
Mm.
And so that just continues to build that safety and security, and you love me for who I am.
Mhm.
And it just carries over into everything.
I love that
I
name, London.
I love it too. Like Lynn's my backyard.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful
Right
name.
there. Yeah, I love that name too. Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative. I mean, we were able to talk about scenarios, and I hope that anybody that watches this podcast will. We will definitely link your book below, and obviously, I will look for the other books that you mentioned also and get
Yeah.
that out there. Do you have a website or anything like that, or just your book that you have behind you?
Yeah. The best place to find me is mysecretsuperpower.com.
Okay.
And if they go there, they'll actually get a PDF that I created for parents
Okay.
who say, I want to start,
Hmm.
but how? Like, what can I start doing today? So
Okay.
that's my top confidence boosters and busters. So it's like,
Okay.
here are things you can start now to boost their confidence. Here are things you may unintentionally be doing
Mhm.
that actually busts their confidence. And then I even include phrases in there like, hey, you may say this, let's switch it to this. So it's really practical. It's free. They can download it. And then I also include the first superpower strategy from my book in audio form and also PDF. So if they go there, that's the best place to
Okay.
find me. And yeah, I'll hook them up.
That's wonderful.
I love
Parenting
that.
Secret Superpower. Everyone go out and grab it on Amazon.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
Jody,
Thanks
thank
for
you so
having
much.
me. It's such a great conversation. And I love your hearts. And thanks for
Thank
letting me
you.
be a part
Thank
of it.
you. Yeah,
Thank
well, we're
you.
so happy that you were part of it. It was
Thank you so
really,
much for
really good.
reaching out, and we're so glad that we have you on here. And yeah, thank you so much. So anybody that's watching this, I will have everything linked below for her book and her website. Go give her a follow. Go buy her book. It is on Amazon. Even if you don't want it for yourself, but you've got a friend that you think might need it, or a sibling, or even people that might be becoming parents for the first time. I know everybody always goes for the mommy
Definitely.
and me book and this and that, but
Mhm.
trust me, the mommy and me books are great, but your babies are going to grow super fast. And before you know it,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, you're hitting the teenage years with the 2 year olds. The 2 3 year olds become the teenagers faster than you think.
Yep.
So get that book for your toddlers, because you're going to need it. So, but thank you so much for coming. We truly, truly appreciate you coming on and
Thank
talking with
you.
us. We loved it. Thank you
Thanks,
so very
guys.
much.
Thank you.